Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel for today's video. Today I wanted to talk to you about the Narcissist and destiny swapping. I wanted to go into a little bit more detail because I received some new information, so let's jump in. Destiny swapping and the narcissist. So I always tell you that when it comes to the narcissist, they are, as witchcraft practitioners, whether they know they're a narcissist or not, because a lot of times in their younger years they could be just going through the motions of unhealed wounds as a narcissist. As they age, they start to define these things more, and as this character really solidifies, and we talked about it in the past about it being like you pour cement, that's to get them fixed. So when you're operating in certain cycles for a long enough time, you will be like poured concrete. It's dried. It's going to take a whole lot of jackhammering to get it to break up, which we don't see, right? So most of the time we see the narcissists and they're fixed. Everything that's a lie out here in the earth has got to be told, at least to us as lay people in the world or whatever, just so it's out there that the truth is out there, because the Lord said that if you knock, the door shall be open unto you, and basically anything that you need will come to you, and it's available to you. That's my opinion, that if you knock on that door, you knock hard enough, God will open that door to you. If you need answers to something, or you have questions about something, or something is a lie, that information is somewhere, and it's been told by somebody. Mythology is something we see in cartoons and movies with giants and different creatures, right? But I personally believe that they're actually telling the truth about pre-flood Noah's Ark. Mythology was pre-flood Noah's Ark reality. So that's kind of like a way the enemy would tell the truth in a lie or in fiction. People of old and ancient days, they just made these stories up. They weren't actually seeing gigantic people that were half human, half inheritors of fallen angel genetics. And they roamed the earth. They ran kingdoms. They were controlling the world. They took over the world, big giants in the land, and they have demonic power. And they didn't look like us, and they were tyrants. Well, there's no way that we could, in humanity, control them. Of course, we could with the Lord's help, but in the case of Genesis 6 and the incursion of the fallen angels that took up around 800 to 1,000 years of control of this earth, that built the megaliths and the monoliths and things that we see left over that we have no idea how they were moved and how they were put into place, but they also were shoved out of place. They were moved into place because there was technology. These Nephilim had been able to build and create because they were half fallen angel, half human. In history, the Spanish conquistadors would explore. They would find remnants of the leftovers. They found a skull. One of them had found, and they have these swords they would carry with them, these war swords, and they would be almost like a meter long. And there's one story where a conquistador had stuck a sword through a skull, and it went from tip to the handle. That's how big the skull was. They would find these creatures, sometimes dead, just skeletons, the leftover remnants of one that had perished. But there were also, sometimes they would find giants in the land, maybe roaming around, small groups of them or singly on their own. When they would be exploring and taking over new territories, they would work with a specific church, pretty much we know of today as ruling the world. That's just to give you an idea of how large these creatures were. And if you have a large body and a large skull, you're going to have the ability to think on a whole nother level. Not to mention they were half fallen angel genetics, ability to levitate, move things, to have a certain vibration that would affect humanity, and spelling was probably a part of their genetics. What we call demons are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, which was their populations with the human women, or what they'd call the daughters of men. So they're specifically spoken of in the word in Genesis 6. Now, the elaboration of that story is elaborated in the book of Enoch. And it talks about all of the things that they brought to mankind We are called the sons and daughters of man. That's our definition. So we know what has occurred because in Genesis 6, it says sons of God came into the daughters of men, all of which they chose. And then we also have the book of Enoch, which was almost word for word the pieces that were used in the canon of the 66 book canon that we have today in the biblical narrative, also found with the Dead Sea Scroll. It has worldwide credibility, and it was found to be in the canon of the Ethiopians' canonical Bible. So then we have now, if you don't believe the extra biblical text or the what we call the apocryphal books, or at least some of them, this one seems to have credibility. They were in the land and they were heavy. They were not like what you find today, like a tall basketball player that's tall and slender and skinny, and the taller you get, the more brittle you get, and the weaker your bones get and stuff. These were very much so able to pick up heavy objects, to move things, and they ruled the earth. But in conspiracies and what they call conspiracy theories today, a lot of times those exist because they have to tell the truth of what really went on in those situations in the earth, because those are pivotal times that affected the whole earth, and it was usually done using some sort of witchcraft, which is, also manipulations, but it was done on a spiritual level. And if you dig into any of those, you will find that they are true, but you got to wrap your head around the understanding of how it works, because there's spiritual situations that are manifesting in the physical realm, because just like in the book of Revelation, it talks about the one-mindedness of the governors and controllers of this world, meaning the leaders, the leadership, and the orchestration of the different systems that rule this earth have a continuity to them of agreements, and they have all the same motives. You have a main worldwide web center, if you would, right? But then you would have nodes, just like you have lymph nodes in your body. You have them in your trunk area, so you have them in your neck, your arms, and in your groin. They are to, clean the blood and the lymph of any potential infection or invaders of the body, and so they can attack it. It's 3 ways in and 2 ways out, so it kind of stunts its flow so it can attack and have more time to attack. But anyway, if you could picture a main computer hub, and let's just say all other computers are connected to it, so those would be like nodes, right? Meaning they all go to the same, and it would be a one-mindedness. Well, that's how these individuals, these fallen ones, or in the last days, they would be running things, and it would be more connected, most connected, because it would be toward the end of time. And they have to tell the truth. And just like a narcissist that is demonically possessed, they have certain attributes that show that they are one-minded. Okay, a lot of times if you find one, you find 10. They run in a pack of wolves. We all know that. And we also know that when they're in a pack of wolves, they can manipulate the area around them using witchcraft. Or, unbeknownst to them, it doesn't matter. They are witchcraft practitioners, whether they know it or not. But then a lot of them will get into spirituality, divination, into spell casting and witchcraft incantations, and not just manipulating like a regular narcissist would, which is witchcraft, but also spelling and targeting these spells to do certain things and to change environments. Glam spells, candle magic, mirror magic, sex magic, death spells, and destiny swaps. And the only thing that would move these megaliths out of place would be large amounts of water, which would be Noah's Ark. And that is really the true historical reason why God flooded the whole earth, was to wipe them out. There was 8 people on that ship, is eternity, right? So if it wasn't for Noah and the 7 other people on that ship, and then God had to send him the clean animals, even if they were unclean to eat, I mean clean like untampered with by the Nephilim, because they had affected all flesh on the earth except what was in that ship. And so that's why God had to send animals to preserve them. What I'm getting at is, the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim are demonic entities. So they are like the foot soldiers. They are the ones that take out light workers. And when it comes to destiny swapping, I've had this attempted upon my life and death spells on many occasions. But because I chose to heal from narcissism, to love myself, build boundaries, and do follow certain pathways of what the word asks us to do, and obedience is better than sacrifice. Unfortunately, a lot of times we choose to sacrifice through, doing sinful things and then falling into folly, which then, because of what the folly causes in our life causes us to walk then in obedience, because now we believe it, because we tampered with something we shouldn't have. But because of the grace of God giving us mercy, we had the ability to turn from that. And so I was on a path after waking up to narcissism to working on healing my life. And it's always under construction, because we're always working on becoming a better individual and closer to God. I mean, we should be. I am, okay? But for a time, I was going through some dark days just from situations in my life, like hospitalization. They would talk about it as bereavement or bereavement overload, which is where you have several things occur in your life. It could be death, it could be divorce, it could be you losing things financially and things around you, and, you know, relationships and all things physically, and causing, you know, issues that can affect your life on depressive state, which could cause you to become at a low vibration, and you may lose hope and faith and joy in your life. And what happens is you start getting into being in fear and anxiety and things like that, which gets you to meet another narcissist or a narcissist in your life, because you're running at that low vibration. And this is talked about by people that talk about narcissism in the world that don't believe in God or whatever. They may not call it a demonic level, but they will tell you that you will meet the narcissist because of bereavement and things like that. Happened to me, and I just want to go over not necessarily a case of mine, but a case of generic situation of how destiny swapping may occur. So what happens in destiny swapping? First, how destiny swapping is put together. You are born and you have a spiritual bank account, so to speak. And that spiritual bank account has your proven destiny, your course that is predicted you will take, and the things that you have built into it. Like, you know, I talk about a surplus of goodness, of doing good deeds and building up like a savings account, you know? And when you do continually work in goodness, righteousness, or healing in your life, or just doing good things, even if you're unhealed, but you have a good heart and you did things for the Lord and you did things without trying to hurt individuals, also plays into, I believe, your future as well. Like you're anticipating, because God's outside of time. So this spiritual bank account is what houses all of that. It's what the world would call the Akashic record. I've talked about this a little bit before, but this is what individuals do that perform destiny swaps. They get into people that will stick out to them, that are maybe more genuine, more real, and they have the ability to pour their heart out or have empathy and passion. Light workers, okay? Star seeds, earth angels, generational curse breakers, chosen ones, individuals like that. And when they find them, they will get into and operate into their Akashic record, things that are, I would say, probably, I don't know how warranted it is. A lot of times a narcissist will push the note with what they can and can't legally, what they can and can't do legally in the physical realm, but not just in the physical realm, but they have the ability, they will get into the spiritual realm as well. And they will look into your Akashic record and see what the trajectory of your life's plan is, or your spiritual bank account, which would be that. Now that spiritual bank account has your name on it, and your name cannot be taken off of that account. That is always going to have your name on it. But if you, through certain legalities, they can come into that spiritual bank account that you have and drain it, steal from it, hijack it, or hack it, just like they could in the physical realm. Just like if you had cards, credit cards that got stolen, and somebody used identity theft and they were able to use those, or get into your bank account, savings accounts, use your social security card, whatever. So on a spiritual level, this same thing can occur. So what they will do, and they are witchcraft practitioners because they are all about lying, manipulating, and things like that. And when you walk in just evil, pure evil, you're dealing with demon attachment or demon possession. And when you have an entity like that controlling you, overpowering you, or leading you, then you're going to emulate the character of the demon inside you, the demon controlling you, because you won't have a true self anymore. You'll be on the false self. And what portrays the false self and helps put that forth, that's witchcraft in itself, because you're putting a different aura on, and energy, and a different persona as an imposter to take people down. And they use witchcraft and understands witchcraft completely, because witchcraft came from demons. So that's why you would be naturally, at that point, at least while you house this demon, you would be a witchcraft practitioner, whether you knew it or not, because you're fully in operation in regards to what the demon wants to do. And without you having identity, nor being able to get it back, at least in most cases, that's up for discussion, but these individuals will find out what's going on with your Akashic record. And if your Akashic record shows a lot of wealth, then somebody will be sent out to you. And a lot of times they're targeted, because these Akashic records are pried open probably on everybody, and they find a light workers and they put them down. They got contracts on them. The contracts, for instance, would come to a narcissist. But let's talk about how a person becomes a narcissist is through unhealed childhood wounds, or things they decide to do also because of whatever childhood wounds that they incurred that they did not heal from. So a lot of times when maybe the empath heals, they will genuinely go through the process of trying to heal. So that's a little bit different. You may have unhealed wounds, but they're more on a lesser level, which may cause sometimes maybe depression or things like that, anxiety, things that may disrupt your life. But if you truly not motivated to do any more, and that's your fault for that, or because of the choices you make and the people you choose to make covenants, contracts, and consents with, you become a subpar individual that does have some childhood wounds. But in the case of the narcissist, they refuse. They refuse to, and they go the other way. Meaning, if they have pain, hurt, or from betrayal, or from something that happened to them traumatic, they may have been abused and used and not treated well. And because of that, it made them sour. They become jealous and hateful. They sabotage and do things to get back at people. That they become sadistic. And as you have unhealed wounds to that level, they're going to be deep, deep wounds. Because when you refuse to heal them and you know what's going on, because you're hurt and you're refusing to do it, or you don't have the courage to do it, or however it works for them, they are in a form of defiance and rebellion, which kind of is on the level of what happened to the enemy when he fell. It was rebellion. And these guys become in complete rebellion. And when you do things like that, you open many doors and give demons legal rights to you. You're running at a low vibration and you stay there. You're in fight or flight and you stay there. You never develop the fruits of the spirit because you refuse to go there, because you're so angry it keeps you from even being able to go there. And because you have demon attachment and you're on that low vibration, then all the people on your plane and plateau that you're going to be rubbing shoulders with are going to be a lot of narcissists. Because those are the ones that you're going to team up with. Those are the ones that you're going to vibrate with. Those are the ones you're going to deal with and agree with. They're going to be the ones you resonate with. And because of that, you'll get one narcissist that will get unhealed wounds, get demon possessed, and then they will find a lot of times other narcissists. They will probably start dating narcissists, at least cycling with other narcissists. So then that makes them double toxic. And then what will happen probably is you'll get two narcissists together, and at some point down the road, when they're comfortable living in their hate, anger, and rage, and doing all these projections and things, and they get to that level, that stuff starts to solidify in them to where it's fixed, and they will go out and they will continue to get into divination. So they'll get into divination, or they'll start to, what narcissists like to do is they like to always be around people, a collective. So that collective would be, and it would tend to be something more evil, or being able to manipulate, use people, and create situations. Now, they can go as a cult. All cults are started and run by narcissists, every one of them. And they're also what narcissists are drawn to, because they're empty. They don't have a typical life because they don't have a true self, and they don't know how to work or operate in the 9 fruits of the spirit. So they kind of get on a level to where they don't ever want to be alone because of abandonment issues. So they tend to navigate to, say, cults and things. It would be like a cult. It would be like a type of organization like Freemasonry or Eastern Stars, a coven, a motivational speaker that runs some sort of a cult or a religious type organization. That's not a good one, more a cultic one, and will lead individuals into doing, witchcraft and working together with others and that sort of thing. So they'll get very, very much so toxic, and then they may be presented. And this is how you, I believe, sell your soul. And let's say you continually get more and more toxic, and just like, people can advance in Christianity, people can also advance in divination and working with demons and devils. And they will elevate almost like backwards from you. You may elevate in your relationship with the Lord, and they're going to operate and increase their levels with the relationship with the enemy. As above, so below, right? So they're always pointing this way, and you're always, their idea is always to point this way, probably unbeknownst to them, but yours is to, always head towards heaven, or head towards the sun, right? So this is, I think, how it gets going, and I have, dove into this a little bit, and I've dived into it a little bit, and I'm going to do more because I'm learning more about it. But what they will do is then get spiritual contracts through these cults, covens, or organizations presented to them, or they may search them out. These contracts are not just spiritual contracts, they're spiritual contracts on you, but they are also in 3D. They're in the physicality, they're physical contracts. And somehow, some way they agree to these, and everything runs in cycles. So this contract would be something that would run on a time limit or a cycle, meaning it starts here and it ends here, and maybe a year or something. I would think it would usually be somewhere like a year's time or something like that. And what will happen is you have to complete the contract in its completion in that year's time. So maybe a death and a destiny swap, meaning you are able to take a contract on a light worker. You're going to go in and seduce them. Maybe have the main male or female that's going to get in a relationship with you. And they may be all three of them. They like to do things in threes. For whatever reason, it's some sort of a power of 3 or something like that. So they may get 3 individuals. And it doesn't matter if they're married or not, because a lot of them work to where they're polyamorous and they have weird agreements. And, there can never only be just one, right? So there's, when it comes to their partners, so they have many partners. So anyway, they will get this contract. Maybe the 3 of them will agree onto this contract. They will do something to get this contract together. They may do something like all have intercourse together or something, some orgy or something. And that will, and do incantations or certain acts with that whole thing that are evil or nasty. But that will seal that covenant or contract on your life. And it will be to take you out, maybe, in some cases. And it will be to destiny swap with you and either have you so depressed, anxious, and paranoid and knock all your foundations out of your life, meaning your finances, your job, your health, your work, your looks, everything. All of your relationships, all of these different foundations that make you who you are and keep you secure in your life and your lifestyle that you are used to or were before you met them. They will do things to poison you, poison your food, your drink. They will be spelling you. Once the narcissist comes into your life, the first thing they do is they pull you down into your fleshly self, into your ego, because they want to get you in your emotional state. So when they come in to love bomb you, they will tell you things like, you were never treated right. You should have been treated better, and I'm here to treat you that way. And, it feels so good. You get into your ego state, and you're not thinking in logic anymore at all. And you don't have your electric cords to heaven, your doorway to heaven. It gets shut, man. And it's like you can't even pray or read or go to church or, do anything for the Lord. It's almost like it's quiet when it comes to the narcissist in your life, because they get you into your ego state and they almost lock you out of your spirit man state or your higher self. And they hijack you by getting you to love them and trust them quickly, because the mask will slip. They trauma bond you really quick. They will do a lot of sex magic, sex magic, and they will spellbound you, get you addicted through all of these things, and get you so, intertwined with them. It's almost like they're your drug, and it doesn't take long. Just like a regular drug, they talk about it. They talk about a few hits, or whatever. After the first high, you're hooked. Well, just like that would work, so would the spiritual situation in you being hooked to the narcissist. And it usually would come as like a succubus or an incubus or a succubus type demon in the individual. So they also did this contract. So what they start doing is knocking all your foundations down. And of course, they train you how they want to be treated, right? So you're going to, in love bomb, they're going to worship you, and they're going to, meaning like, you're so great, you're the awesomest thing. That's worship. You can look at it however you want. You could call it flattery, but it's a form of worship if you were to look at it in a religious way or in a spiritual way. So I'm looking at it like that, because that's what this is. And so they kind of worship you in the beginning, and they serve you. They do everything for you. They might buy you gifts. They, will future fake with you, everything. But they're also getting to know you, getting hooked and corded up to you, and then they start to trauma bond you. And once they get you hooked like that, well, you start getting all of that love, you feel like, so you start to give them equal reciprocity, which is where they have trained you, or they have treated you a certain way, so now you want to treat them with equal reciprocity, so you start to worship them. You're awesome. I mean, you're the greatest thing, and I'm so glad I met you, or whatever. And so you're now worshiping them, serving them, praising them, validating them, giving them advice, doing anything you could do for them, pouring your heart out. And then the mask slips, you're trauma bonded, and they quit love bombing you. So they're never gonna do that worship thing or give you any validation anymore. They got you hooked now, but you keep doing it in the attempt of, almost like you're thirsty, is what it would look like in the physicality and how you'd feel. So you're like thirsty for them, and then they start running, and it's like runner chaser and all that crap, because they get you hooked. But it's a way that they do things and the way they spell you. But now you're on this narc vibration, and you're completely in ego. And when you start to chase them, then you're like being told that, they think you are some piece of crap or whatever, and you're really not. So you're trying to convince them that I'm not whatever you think I am, or whatever you feel like I am. I'm not that at all. So you start to get in your ego of what you think they would like, because they start telling you what they do like, and it's not you anymore. It's somebody else, because they're triangulating you or whatever. So this is what happens. And once they break you down enough, you start to get depressed when they leave you, and fear, anxiety, paranoia, plus they project it onto you, all of them. And every day you are becoming them, and they are becoming you. You see, so they're starting to become your destiny. And so they're able to then manifest this into the 3D somehow, where your spiritual bank account becomes in the physicality, and they start to siphon off of it. But what will happen a lot of times is the enemy is sneaky, and he doesn't have any allegiance to anybody. So what he will do, and they will get life insurance policies, they will get birth and death certificates, and they will find a way to take you out. But a lot of times they can do it if you're not operating, like if you're not saved, or you're not operating at least somewhat correctly, or you don't choose to turn from that lustful nature. They get you from a love state to a lust state, you see. So when you get into a lust state, it's like your walls are all down. What do they do first? They knock every boundary down in your life as well, because then you're wide open for demon attachment as well. And until you deny all of that lust and start walking your way out of it, if you don't do it, and listen, your body and your mind and your heart and everything will be telling you to keep doing what you're doing, because it's like a drug, and you have to refuse it. And a lot of people do not do that. They become chained to this narcissist, and the narcissist is like an incubus or a succubus, and they're chained to the devil. You see, they're rooted to the devil. Or these three are rooted together and rooted to the devil. And it's a contract. So what'll happen is they'll be able to tap into this Akashic record, your spiritual bank account, and they will draw off it early, accepting the covenant or contract with the narcissist. You had intercourse with them, and you started to worship them. So these are where they get these legalities to your life, and then they pull you down such a level and nail you with a bunch of witchcraft. Witchcraft can't affect you, we always say, if you have a high vibration, because you're above the level of what would be legally rightful for you to get nailed in most cases, as far as what the little bit that I do know, I do believe. But when you get into death spells and death magic and destiny swaps, you're getting into heavy hitting stuff. So I don't know how that affects. It would still affect it less, but when you're on a low vibration, they could take you out. So they like to keep you on that low vibration, and they will send out demonic entities to attach to you and stuff. And according to how you are walking with the Lord and maneuvering and what you are rejecting and accepting. And a lot of times they will monitor that. You know, they like to come in those times like one day and then leave, you know, like just to keep it going and then come back for a full cycle. You know, they'll do things like that because they got to keep you on that low vibration. And during that time, you'll think you're just dating this person, but this person also is connected to the two others, this group of three. And they all signed this contract, and they're starting to siphon off this account that would be in its physicality. It's yours. God has everything built into the foundation of this world. Also, how witchcraft can work and operate. It's not just that evil can just run amok. It can't. It has to have rights, and it has to run on cycles, so that when the cycle runs out, you'll have a chance to recover, and that's your grace to run. That's why when the narcissist leaves, you should run. That's your grace God's given you, because that thing's coming back. But anyway, they'll do this, and they'll start siphoning off this account, and they will sometimes fake a death on you, even though they're still going to take you out, but they haven't been able to do it yet, but they have a year. So what they will do then is they may fake your death, and they may fake a marriage so that they can siphon this account, because there's only certain ways they can siphon this account, and it may go against the legalities of what the spirit says you can and can't do, but it's there. Anyway, so once they tap into those, now they're really rooted to the devil. Now it's like they're owned through the contract that they signed, which means they have to take you out. That means the devil demands your life within that period of time, that cycle, that year. And if you don't complete that death, then it has to be fed a death. So what happens then, it comes for them, a reaper. And it starts to get them sick, and it starts to take one of them out. And it may keep going. It goes to those three at least, because they're all connected. It'll get them one at a time, and they may get an extension. I don't know. But they don't get an extension on your life, really, unless especially if you pulled out of it. If you pulled out of it. Now, if you stay in it, they could maybe re-up that thing. But what happened in my situation, I walked away probably in the nick of time, and I had to fight a lot of demons. And I had to shake a lot of stuff off. And by the grace of God, I was able to walk away, and I worked heavily on my healing because I had purpose. Because God will always supply your needs if you look to him and you do what you're supposed to do. We all will fight with doing evil sometimes and doing the wrong thing and dealing with sin in our life. We will always deal with that. We'll never be perfect. Don't ever look at me as being perfect or something stupid like that. It's not going to happen. But you are trying. You're working on your life constructively, actively, and you're walking yourself out of evil. You've made an about face, and you're walking your way out of whatever you were in, and you're starting to clear it up, heal it up, love yourself, build them boundaries back stronger than ever. Start to worship the Lord and talk to the Lord and work on your relationship with him. Try to do right and watch your covenants, contracts, and consents and things like that. Then you're protected. Contract or not, you're protected. But what happens to them is now they got into this Akashic record. You know, it's kind of like this. If you continue down the road of evil, then your grace will run out, and he'll let you get taken out. And that's why you'll see a lot of good people, and that has happened to them. And they will cash in life insurance policies on you, and they will do all kinds of stuff, and somehow they will be able to take the inheritance to your whole destiny's bank account. Because you operated in folly, and you gave up on your anointing, your mantle. And you did not secure it and activate it and operate in it the way you were supposed to. So it gets taken from you. It gets stolen out from under you. And it talks about this in a number of ways in the Bible, in the Word. We'll talk about things like where Esau sold his birthright for a bowl of lentil soup. And there's different situations in the Word. We'll talk about the Israelites even. They would get under this bondage every 365 years or something like that, or it would last that long. But it would be like there was several times. It was through Egypt for years and years. They were enslaved for like 285 years or whatever it was. It would always be a cycle. And so with their bondage, but it would be a long time. It would be a lot of years. And it would be through several generations of families that would live and die in some sort of a slavery under the oppression of another kingdom. So it was Egypt that first enslaved because they weren't following their spiritual bank account. They weren't building it right, and they weren't protecting it right, so it got taken out from under them. It's very similar. If you let them siphon from that account and they get it completely dry, and you don't turn this thing around in any amount of time within that cycle, you may be in lack, and you may be in poor health, poor looks. You may have no friends anymore, no kind of good relationships, and everything about you will be cursed. You will be stuck in poverty. But in the case of me, I woke up and I left, and they didn't expect that because they had me in their grip. They had their foot on my neck. And what I did over that next period of time is I healed greatly, and I was working on my life. I mean, sometimes 20 hours I would spend on getting knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and working on healing and talking about it and thinking about it and reading material and praying and stuff. And I reversed this thing, and I knew nothing about what was going on. I just knew what I was dealing with was demonic and entity attachment. I had seen things in the physical realm, and I knew it was witchcraft, whether they knew it or not, because I know the word. And so I was able to decipher through it all and get these determinations. Plus, I know the Lord taught it. I have spiritual intuition and different things, clairvoyance and stuff. So I was able to slowly get tapped in with the Lord more and more, and to understand what was truly, truly going on. And after a certain point, it just, I mean, I'm getting it all the time, y'all. It's just the levels of growth that I've been having, and how, you know, most of the time I feel really good, you know. And I think they wanted me to feel horrible and just croak or something, but somehow they're able to steal that out from under you. And then if it continues, then you will actually get really depressed and paranoid and stuff, and you'll take yourself out. That's part of the spell, and this related to this contract, and they will do death spells on you, and it will take you out. The death spells will take you out. And in most cases it works, and it has worked for them and the people around them. And because it wasn't working for them, at a certain point they had to hire practitioners to do it, because now it's either my life or their life. And so they weren't working, and they started to backfire on them. And then the cycle ran out, and then they can't perform them anymore, because now the rules would be stated in the legalities of it is he's changed. He's grown past this level to where you can't be touched like that. And then you also do not have the legality to continue death spelling like that. It's not legal spiritually in the spiritual courts. So to come out of this, when you go into this, it becomes spiritual court, and you lose, right, the case. But when you come out of it, you have to go to a spiritual court as well, and you pass. And so what happens is now that they did all of this, and it becomes physicality, and this physicality has always existed. That's the thing. Like with God being outside of time, it's like it's always existed. You were supposed to get this, but it's amazing how God is so spiritual, and you know, he's, 100 steps, 1,000 steps ahead of us, you know what I'm saying? And he will put you 10 steps ahead of them once you start to wake up to this and understand and start to walk in your power, the power of the Lord, and let him lead you. And so this has been happening to me. So what is happening now, or what has happened, is now the cycles all ended. Sent out that death magic over and over, and they couldn't destiny swap with me, and they couldn't get me to off myself. And so the cycle ran out, and they continued to do it. So it starts backfiring on them because it's not legal anymore. And now it's like, I can't be touched by this situation in any which way, because I'm covered now. And I operate on the level of coverage to keep my coverage and to protect it, boundaries. And because I had the faith to step out and to do this, because I didn't have to do this to save my own tail, but you get tired when you've been dealing with this kind of shit. You get tired when you've been dealing with this kind of stuff your whole life, and a lot of it was unbeknownst to you, or you were trying to do the right thing. You knew, you got saved, and you just were always burdened down by people in your life, and you didn't know why. But when you wake up to narcissism and you start to understand that, it helps you to get back into your childhood and understand why people acted and operated the way they did to you your whole life. And sorry, I'm passionate, but it sent me on a pathway to healing. And I started to grow in the spirit and with the Lord and allow him to work in me a new thing. And, you know, I dealt with a little frustrations early this morning, you know, between me and the Lord, and, you know, and he started to show me some things and help me to understand this a little bit more. Now, I don't understand it, you know, completely, but I do understand the whole narrative of what's been going on. And because they did all of these things, what happens now is it's coming for them and it's taking them out. And what they had done is, what they did to make them stronger is they rooted the whole coven by doing like orgy type stuff. So now it's like what I'm getting is, and then this is all for entertainment purposes only. None of it is true. It's all fiction, and it's for a book I'm writing or whatever. So what these individuals would do then, because they can't do it alone now, is they take the whole coven, and for them to connect to this contract covenant, or what they're doing to my life and how much they were able to manifest off of it. What they do is they all have orgies, man, and every time they have sex with one of these three members, they all get rooted together. So they become like, not one-minded, but it's almost like this entities can jump in between them all because it has all these connections, and they can all, spiritually attack me together, and it becomes more powerful. But that didn't work. That wouldn't work either. So this is where it gets also other administrations, officials, and things involved. So now what happens is, when they owe me also physical inheritance, is what it has turned into, and it is mine. It's mine, and it will always go back to me. It's legally mine, and it always has been. That's the thing. But then what happened is, because they were stiff-necked and hard-headed, and they didn't want to deal with trying to reverse this some other way, they got the Reaper coming for now the whole coven, one at a time. They're all getting sick with like flesh. This is just a story. It's not true. But sick with like flesh-eating diseases and things that don't make sense, are either undiagnosable or maybe some sort of STI or STD. And sometimes they're ones that would take you out. Those types, like the bug. And what happens when you get backfired witchcraft that's coming back to bash you back? It's coming back and it's hitting them, and if they have like the bug or something, right? So it will, or if they have like high five or something, it's going to make that stuff rapidly turn into its ending phase of its STD or STI or whatever infection it is. So it's like something that would maybe naturally take maybe 20 years for a disease to take you out, or cancer. It will take like a year. And because that stuff, like, it's coming, it has repercussions, and one of the repercussions is to speed up these types of things. So it's like any type of infection that they may have had underlying or diagnoses, it makes it increase like 10 times, 10-fold or something, 20-fold on them. And also, as they caught stuff doing all these things, these orgies and stuff, they were catching things from other people. And when they did that, now the death magic and all these spells and things are hitting all of them, because they're all involved. So they're all getting sick, and it's rapidly increasing the death of them. And then they're also getting weird things happen. Like they would be wrecking cars and motorcycles, or ending up, somebody would take them out because they may owe like some gangland affiliates a bunch of money that they had on credit loans. through some sort of loan shark or something. They can't pay them back, they can't pay them interest, or they went against them or tried to use them as some sort of pawn, or blame something they did that's criminally orchestrated by them on this maybe gangland family or something. So now the gangland family might be taking them out, and then these people work in the judicial system, so then they'll be making false arrests, and they'll get their fake lawyers and fake judges to run things through and sign off on paperwork and put them in prison. And maybe they didn't even, maybe maybe they've done bad things, but maybe they didn't do the crime that they get convicted for. So this is what happens. But also, when they refuse to give you what's yours, it starts to increase by tenfold each, like over a period of time, tenfold, 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 tenfold. And also what happens is they went out and they blew this Akashic inheritance that was mine, that they siphoned and sucked out from under me. So that's like us, and that's always been, like I said, it's related to me, and it's always been just mine. And when they blew it, now they have to replace it, and it will come back. It will come back because it's always going to be rewarded to you, and it gets rewarded to you so much more because you reversed and repented when nobody would probably do this. And so what also happens to them is, because they took that, finances also is turned into rebound energy on an energetic level. They owe you that financially and energetically. And when they can't, and because of the way it was done as you being a scapegoat, and them making you look like a representative that you weren't. That they may throw spells on you to make you look like you're an evil person or a mental case or something, and you're not. They are, actually. So also it makes them lose their mind. They start going crazy. I mean, they're crazy to begin with, but now what's funny is everything that they said I was, they were. And then every spell they cast gets spelled back on them. So it's death spelling them. They would do different spells on me, and they're coming back to them. They did spells to make me confused and crazy and fogged up and not feeling good, not looking good, gaining weight. All of these things having all kind of issues with my lungs, my throat. I use my throat to speak, and they don't want what's on my channel to get out, so they've been hacking my channel. And it got caught. And they owe me for that. I mean, it's like, there's a lot of things, but it's like spiritual courts and physical courts too. It's their combination. So because they owe me on an energetic level, they're not only going to be fatigued, but that's going to age them rapidly and enormously quick. And when they're not going to have enough to recover through their defensive systems. You know how you have to fight infection, like your lymph system or something like that. But they're all connected, just like that computer would with little computers, all connected by wires or Wi-Fi. And this is how this curse and this demon attachment now, because they all did these orgies and these incantations. And then they also did grave magic, where they would dig up people's graves, and they do all this weird stuff, and they roll around in them, and they do these incantations. I think we're going to find out in court later that they have these things on tape too. So they also did these things where I would look like a fool, like where you would look like a complete fool. That things would happen in your life. And they would cast spells, and they would also orchestrate things and dress up like you and send videos out and say it was you, or a lot of impersonations. And people would buy it. They would believe it was you. You would maybe get arrested for it because they would do some heinous act cloaked as you, but using spell work, so people would actually believe it was you. And different things. I mean, spell work is crazy. I mean, people can convince individuals to let them out of prison when they need to be locked up. I mean, weird stuff they can do. And a lot of times these are sometimes temporary, but some of the stuff they've been getting away with for a long, long time. But then they also cashed in a life insurance policy and got millions of dollars and blew it all. But now they owe me. And this is kind of how it works. And now I have to deal with this, both on a physical level and a spiritual level. And like I said, the longer that they wait, and it costs all of these, these crooked law officials, they're all going to get busted. There's nothing they can do. It's already been done, because I've already passed the test and gotten to the place that I needed to get to complete this cycle. So now they're just fighting themselves, taking themselves out, and weakening their own military of evil. Satan's evil ones taking each other out. Like I said, the enemy always kills themselves. They always destroy themselves. God always has the enemy do all the work against themselves. And that's what's going on a fictional level. So anyway, this is kind of how it works. So you don't want to be with the narcissist. Thank you for watching. Until next time, soldier up. Peace. We out.